Oh man, these mobile games sure have been making us lots of money. Hey, what game do you think we should corrupt next?
I don't know. But I'm sure there has to be something.
No!
Hello everybody, how are you doing? Today we're going to be talking about Mario Kart Tour. This is going to be a discussion slash early review of the game, and I actually already recorded this. I did like 18 minutes worth, more like 15, with just me stuttering in between. So you can tell there's quite a bit to talk about here, but I mainly just wanted to give some of my early thoughts about the game, and especially based off some of the word on the internet, on YouTube, that people have been talking about it already. In terms of the game itself, I'm just gonna kind of just run down some of the elements and the problems I've had with it, but also some of the good bits. In terms of what it is, if you haven't seen anything about it yet, it's basically simplified Mario Kart. It's watered down Mario Kart 7. Not even 8, there's no gravity stuff, it's basically Mario Kart 7. It doesn't do anything new with the series. And that tour name, you'd think it would be like a go out and explore like Pokemon Go kind of thing, but instead, it's basically their nickname for that game's version of Grand Prix, and those have 3 races in them, with each being 2 laps, and then there's one challenge level, which we'll talk about the challenges a bit later, but it's a weird setup, it's a weird design choice, especially when they had the opportunity to make something like unique. When I thought they were making a Mario Kart game for mobile, you'd really, with Nintendo, you'd expect them to try something new, but that's kind of where they've been struggling in the mobile games. Super Mario Run was pretty generic. Pocket Camp, much more unique, but also kind of just like, eh. Fire Emblem Heroes tried a bit more. It was actually like an RPG, but it was also very similar to the original Fire Emblem games. So when I had first heard of this, I thought maybe they'd do something like Mini Motor Racing, if you've ever heard of that, where it's basically top-down. That would have been such a perfect way to make a Mario Kart game on phones. It would have been something cool, it would have been something new. And my biggest problem with that is that when Nintendo first started doing these games, they said, oh hey, we're going to have some that are free to play, some that are free to start, and some that you're just going to buy straight up. Mario Run started like the buy it completely. It kind of just devolved into free to play completely. Almost. There's still some stuff you have to buy. But what really happened was they developed those gacha elements. We all know them, the things we hate with mobile games. The microtransactions, the mini loot boxes, even in Animal Crossing, which really stunk. I'm kind of happy though, because I didn't really play Pocket Camp enough to where there was the point where I ever started buying anything. But when it comes to Tour, part of the gacha system plays into the fact that there is a point system. So depending on your car build, character, and the actions you perform during the race, and your final position, the amount of points you earn can change. So this basically means that depending on how you build up your setup before the race, your vehicle and just everything combined will have a total point score, and then that's what your total is for the race. That's your final score. So you could even get 3rd place and still have a huge score and get all the bonuses at the end. And these bonuses are stars. One of the many currencies that Mario Kart Tour has that is super frustrating. Stars are one of the parts, though, that are a bit more relaxing, I guess I'd say. They're not as frustrating, but of course, Tour had to have its fair share of those. It has coins, gems, stamina, what else? I'm forgetting, but just some of the simple ones out there. In terms of stars, they are your way of progressing through the game. That is how you level up. It's how you it's how you unlock further races, because that's Tour's version. Is what they do is they have their Grand Prix. They have 20 of them in total, and you play through them, and you go through each one by getting more stars, and you get those stars by getting the best score you can in each tour. And some of this may sound confusing, and that's just because it's really hard to wrap my head around it out loud because of the amount of currencies they have. It's very frustrating. It's a very gacha focused game. 10 minutes of playing it and you will notice it. It really is not hard to see. And that's really disappointing. Like I said at the beginning, this was kind of their chance, I feel like, to do something unique with a franchise that would have fit perfectly on smartphones. But while this is frustrating, I mean, there is the bonus, there is a benefit to it, I guess, that they do give out a lot of freebies in this beta so far, in terms of gems, which is the main currency. They aren't that hard to get. I've had enough to get like 20 drops out of stuff. You get them just by completing challenges, which are basically their like weekly board of events where you, for instance, play as a character with a mustache and get this high of a score. You get a badge and you get the challenge points. Or you complete a certain objective in a race, like hit 10 players with green shells. Then you get a badge for that and you get the bonuses for that. And so on. And then that's just one way you can get gems. Then, of course, there is one of the biggest ways, which is placing in rankings. Now, the rank system, they do it every week, as from what they've seen so far with the 2 weeks that it's been out. Every week, they pick a specific tour, and then you try to get as high of a score as possible in it on the 3 races, and then they tally that up, and whoever has the highest, there's a list of the top 10, and the top 10 or so, like, everyone below the top 10 get like 5 gems, and then everyone above gets 10, 15, 30 successively. But it still takes a really long time to have enough for getting those gems and getting those drops. It really is a grind, especially when you just want to get a new character. You want to just get a new car, because that's the hardest thing with this game, is that you have to use gems to get characters and cars, which is a really big, startling thing when you go from playing Mario Kart, where you have all the characters and stuff at your fingertips, to now I need to unlock it to get this specific character. It's a frustrating aspect of the game. What makes it even more frustrating is the fact that depending on your car and your character and your glider, you have better stats for each race. Depending if your character matches up with the racetrack, you get 3 item slots instead of 1. If you have the right body, you get a faster car than everyone else. And if you have the right glider for the track, then you have a higher item chance of getting a specific item that is tied to that glider. So for instance, even if you had lightning attached to a glider, which I do have in the game, there is a glider like that, and you use that at the right track, you have a high chance of getting lightning multiple times when in a certain position. So it can really lead to some unbalanced scenarios, especially when tied into the fact that a lot of the game is AI. There is no real player connection. You're not playing against real people, you're playing against AI with real people names. And the way that players noticed this was the fact that you could turn off the game completely. You could just power down your phone, pick it back up, and nothing would have happened. You'd still be in the exact same spot in your race. All the other racers would be there too. And that really detracts from the fun of the game. You wonder, like, why is this just a beta thing, or is this going to actually be how the game runs? If so, that's gonna be kind of really disappointing, because that whole, like, enticing part of Mario Kart is racing against other people, trying to get that first place, that wonderful, wonderful number 1. One other thing that I said we'd get back to are challenges, and that is the final part of a tour. It's usually the 4th and final portion, and those are fun. Those are one of the redeeming parts, along with the challenge board, of Mario Kart Tour that I enjoyed, where it basically took me back to the days of playing Mario Kart DS and playing the single player mode, which I'm surprised they haven't brought back in other Mario Karts. But you basically get to drive and complete challenges like don't take damage, glide as far as you can across the map, get as many jump boosts as you can, stuff like that. It just makes the game fun. There's also like drive through all the rings, get the most points. Like, I like it when they present something different that shakes up the game. And they do this further by the fact that aside from all the generic, low quality, like kind of tracks they have reverse tracks, which was something they were going to do in other Mario Karts, but just because of technical limitations, I guess, or because of time, they didn't. In this one, for instance, you go into Luigi's Mansion and drive all the way through it backwards, and they mix it up and add jumps and stuff everywhere to like make it work, which is a really cool part of the game, and I wish that they had taken more liberty with, instead of taking older tracks and putting them in the game. And in terms of those tracks, those older tracks, there is a small selection. I have repeated the same 10, 15 tracks, not even that, over and over again, and it gets really tiring, especially when the further you go, of course, the harder the CPU get and the more annoying the item placements get, because along with those item luck boosts, there's a thing called frenzy mode. And when they get a frenzy mode, basically they can spam the same item over and over and over again. So for instance, you get frenzy red shell. They can spam red shells continuously for like a solid 10 seconds before the ability wears off. So in terms of that, that's another way that the game can kind of end up being a bit more unbalanced. And really, that's the kind of thing I hope Nintendo chooses to fix by the time this game comes out. I hope they receive the responses from the surveys from the beta, and they see the response and they think, okay, we need to fix some of this and make it a little less random. We need to make it a bit more balanced, because that's the biggest thing holding this game back right now, is those gacha pay to win kind of elements that make it unfair for players who can't really afford that, because you could go into a racetrack that will give you more points with Rosalina, but Rosalina is a special rare character and you can't get her unless you pay gems. And since you can't get her because you don't have enough gems, or because you don't want to pay money for this game, you then cannot get the highest score. You can't really do well in rankings, which is the biggest problem I've had. Just all in all those bonuses and stuff. And I didn't even get into some of the other things, such as tickets that upgrade your car, because apparently your cars and characters and stuff have experience, which is points, and then levels, which gives them abilities. So they have so many different little things, which is cool. Like, they put a lot of details into the specifics for each character, but the problem is they aren't really defined very well, and they aren't used to a very good ability, because you can pretty clearly see with those things, with the upgrading and experience and leveling up, that it's going to lead to a scenario where you're going to be paying money to get to unlock those abilities, because it's not like you get them easy. You level up fairly slowly. But I mean, all of this is likely to change by the final version. With Nintendo, you never really know. You never know if they're going to take the feedback correctly. Other times they have a lot of trouble with the social aspect of games and hearing what the fans want. And then other times they do great. I mean, hey, look at Smash Bros. They put in all of these characters players wanted. So, I mean, if they can do that, maybe they can try and fix this game a bit. But thank you guys for watching, listening, I guess. And if you guys have any thoughts about this too, I'd like to hear it down below in the comments. I'd really like to know what you think about this game, if you've had a chance to play it, or from what you've heard from others. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.